Greetings, everyone. Today, the Storypot channel presents a story about a villainous elder sister who cloaks herself in false holiness. Living by the motto, everyone for themselves and the devil take the hindmost, her hypocrisy is enough to make one's blood boil. It is a heart-wrenching tale for our protagonist, at least at first. My eldest sister was a Buddhist saintess, a woman who supposedly existed only to deliver all living beings from suffering. I remember the day a filthy beggar grabbed my skirt in the street. She stood by and forbade me from resisting. All phenomena are empty, she told me coldly. He only looked. What have you truly lost? Later, when war and chaos descended and refugees swarmed the city, she opened the gates of our manor in the name of universal compassion. My father and mother died horrific deaths. Our family wealth was plundered until not a coin remained. I fled with my youngest sister to the temple, kneeling in the dirt to beg for shelter. But she barred the doors against us. You never believed in the Buddha, she declared. How can you expect his protection now? My little sister, unable to endure the shame and hunger, eventually threw herself into the icy river of protection. I was left to rot as a beggar on the streets. I never imagined that the very beggar from years ago would rise to become the leader of the rebel army, a general. He wanted to take me as his wife. But then, my eldest sister descended from her mountain, bringing with her a staggering dowry. Rumors spread that he who possesses the Saintess possesses the world. The general changed his mind. He married her and took me only as a lowly concubine. In my grief and agony, I cornered her. Where did you get that money? Those refugees years ago. You arranged that, didn't you? She only smiled, a chilling, mocking thing. My foolish little sister, I can see the future. How could you ever hope to win against me? She ordered her guards to bind me and cast me into the river, but as the water filled my lungs, I didn't die. I opened my eyes to find myself reborn, back to the very day she intended to open our gates. Chapter 1. The imperial court had long since rotted. Rebellions were erupting everywhere and desperate refugees were pouring into the capital, bringing chaos in their wake. My father had just ordered the entire household to double the guards to protect our estate. Wealth is but a fleeting cloud, a familiar ethereal voice drifted through the hall. You cannot take it with you in life, nor can you carry it to the grave. Why not use it to deliver all beings from their misery? Hearing those words, I realized with a jolt that I had returned. Just like in my previous life, my eldest sister, Shui Jingwu, had returned from the temple to visit us. Jingwu had been frail since birth. On the day she was born, an eminent monk had appeared uninvited, claiming she was a celestial child whose life was too fragile for the mundane world. To survive, she had to devote herself to the Buddha. At 3 years old, she entered the temple. She was indeed gifted. By 7, she was already lecturing on the sutras and becoming a renowned Buddhist saintess in the capital. Our family treated her like a precious pearl. Her favorite phrase was always, "the salvation of all living beings." I remembered the day we went out for a stroll. A beggar had lunged from an alley, intentionally colliding with me and grabbing my waist. When I ordered our attendants to seize the rogue and demand an apology, the beggar simply flopped onto the ground, feigning death. When Jingwu asked what happened, I whispered that the man was a harasser who had groped me. She looked at the beggar for a moment, then turned to me with a look of icy disdain. All phenomena are empty, she announced, her voice loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. He only looked. You aren't that precious. What exactly have you lost? As the onlookers began to point and whisper, I fled in hot shame, shouting that she was insane. Behind me, she remained in place, lecturing the crowd on how even a beggar is a living soul, deserving of equality. That kindness was the very thing that eventually led to our family's slaughter. Now, standing in the hall, my father asked her, "And how exactly do you propose we deliver them?" "We should lead by example," Jingwu replied, clutching her white jade prayer beads. "Open our gates, take in the refugees, and share our food and shelter." "That is unwise," my father countered. "This house is full of women. If these men harbor ill intentions, our lives will be forfeit. Many criminals are hiding among the refugees these days, using the chaos to murder and rob." Jingwu stood tall, her expression one of cold piety. "In the end, you simply cannot part with your worldly possessions, but I am a destined saintess. My karmic ties to this family end here." She turned to leave. My parents didn't stop her, but I knew what she was planning. In my past life, she had left a side gate unlatched before she departed. At midnight, the refugees had slipped in, set the manor ablaze, and beaten my parents to death while they searched for gold. "The night is late, sister," I said, stepping forward. "Why not stay until morning?" "I cannot be away from the temple's light for long," she sighed, rubbing her forehead. "I feel my strength waning." It was her usual trick to get her way. My father hesitated, then offered to send guards to escort her back. She didn't refuse. More guards for her meant fewer guards at the manor. "Father, the streets are dangerous," I cut in. "Her sister believes in protecting all souls, and our guards are living souls too. How can we ask them to face the danger of the night for a single trip?" I looked Jingwu in the eye. She narrowed hers and replied stiffly, "I do not need an escort." As she headed for the side gate, she urged me to go back inside. I ignored her and took a bundle from a maid's hand. Under the moonlight, I opened it, revealing several heavy bars of gold and silver. "To ensure the Buddha's protection," I said, my voice intentionally loud and clear for any lingering refugees in the shadows to hear. 100 taels of gold and 300 taels of silver for the temple's incense." Jingwu looked magnificent as she replied, "This is but the Buddha's grace protecting you all." She signaled her young novice to take the money and boarded her carriage. Once she was gone, I watched from the shadows. Sure enough, she had snuck back to place a stone in the frame of the side gate, preventing it from locking. As soon as her carriage vanished, I ordered the guards to lock the gate securely. I then had them scale the walls with long bamboo poles. When the refugees arrived at midnight and tried to push the gate, our guards rained blows down on their heads. "The young miss was right," the guards shouted as the bandits wailed. "This was a trap." The bandits, who had been waiting all day for an easy score, were furious. Hearing the guards mention a trap, they realized they had been played. Remembering the gold and silver Jingwu had just carried away, they exchanged looks and turned their fury toward her retreating carriage. "Eldest sister," I whispered to the night, I hope you enjoy your own brand of salvation." The next morning, I found my father in his study, looking weary. "Father, are you still thinking about what sister said?" "Her words were not entirely wrong," he sighed. "The world is in chaos. Having such a large estate makes us a target." "We cannot hide forever," I said firmly. "The other wealthy families are waiting to see how we act. Father, let me handle the family business. Sister is a nun, and our youngest is too small. I am your heir." My father looked at me, surprised by my resolve, and nodded. He handed me the authority to manage the estate. The following afternoon, Jingwu returned. She was a mess. Her robes were torn, her hair was disheveled, and her jade ornaments were gone. "Sister!" I cried, rushing out. Didn't you take the incense money last night?" She gave me a frigid look. "I encountered some poor souls on the road and gave it all to them." I noticed the dark bruises on her face. "If you gave them money, why did they hit you?" Her face flushed. I was saving someone, and a mother became hysterical. My mother hurried over, her eyes full of concern. Are you all right, my child? You must be careful. Jingwu puffed out her chest. Mother, I am a saintess. I exist to protect the world. If you want to help, just give me 30 years worth of incense money now, as I will not be coming down the mountain again. 30 years? The audacity was staggering. Yesterday you said our karmic ties were severed, I said, fiddling with a jade bracelet. Should I call you Mother Jingwu now? As for the money, I manage the accounts now. Her eyes locked onto my bracelet. The people suffer while you dress in finery. Selfish girl, you are unfit to manage this wealth. Whether I am fit isn't for you to decide, I replied. But why did you return alone? I gestured, and 2 young novices were brought forward. They were the girls who had been with her last night. I had sent men to follow her, knowing she'd be attacked. When the bandits stopped her carriage, she had thrown the money at them first. When they demanded more, she had pushed these 2 young girls out of the carriage to save herself. The 2 novices were trembling with rage. She talks of salvation, but she used us as shields. She even left the side gate unlatched and told those thugs to rob this house. The courtyard went silent. My father's face turned a terrifying shade of red. Jingwu, is this true? It is their karma, she shrieked, refusing to back down. You hoard your wealth. I was simply helping you perform a good deed. My father slammed his hand on the table. A good deed? You wanted us dead. I am a saintess. I was only born into this family to use you as a vessel. My mother recoiled as if struck. My father's voice was like ice. Say that again. Jingwu began to panic, retreating until she hit a pillar. My heart, I am unwell. I must return to the temple. Give me the money. I didn't give her a chance. I summoned the family elders and had her name struck from the genealogy. From this day on, you are no longer a daughter of the Sui family. And since you've severed your ties, you will return every penny this family has donated to Tianan Temple over the last 10 years. She turned pale. While she had planned to hide in the temple for 2 years until the new emperor, the general, rose to power, then emerged as his Saintess. That was incense money for the Buddha, she screamed. I held up the ledger. It's tens of thousands of taels. If you don't return it, I'll report you to the authorities. The court is desperate for funds. I'm sure they'd love to see how much a Saintess has been hoarding. She lunged for the ledger, but the guards pinned her down. My father looked at her with total exhaustion. Give back half. From now on, you are just Jingwu. You are forbidden from using the Shui name. I tossed a portion of the debt records at her feet. She grabbed them, her eyes burning with hatred. Just you wait, all of you. Chapter 2. I knew better than to underestimate her. She could see fragments of the future, even if she couldn't see her own downfall. To ensure our safety, I moved my parents to a secure estate in Zhejiang. My youngest sister Jingru clung to me, sobbing. Sister, I had a nightmare. We all died. I was in the river for so long. It was so cold. I held her close, my heart aching. In my past life, she had a scar on her forehead from where Jingwu had kicked her down the temple steps. Looking at her now, I knew the past was no hallucination. I set up a kanji stall outside the city under the Shui family name. While other wealthy families hoarded their grain, I managed the refugees. I realized that the troublemakers were mostly the young, strong men. I focused my charity on the elderly and the children. By feeding the families of these men, the thugs stopped harassing our shops. Soon, other families followed my lead, and the city became more stable. Equality for all beings? A mocking voice rang out one afternoon. Jingwu stood there, dressed in simple robes, but still wearing a white jade necklace. She had been down from the mountain for only a few months. You're feeding them this filth? she sneered. A woman in the line pushed her aside. If you're so holy, get out of the way. Jingwoo's face contorted. You common wench. Do you know who I am? When someone recognized her as a saintess, she preened, thinking they would bow. Instead, she announced she would perform a hymn of deliverance. She sat on a high stool and played her lute. When she finished, the people simply got back in line for food. Frustrated, Jingwoo kicked over a vat of congee. You have been enlightened. You must not consume this mundane filth anymore. The hungry refugees snapped. Are you crazy? Can your music fill our bellies? Get out of here. Someone shoved her and she tumbled into the dirt. Just then, the thunder of hooves echoed from the distance. Jingwoo's eyes lit up as she scrambled to her feet. He's here! My prophecy was right. He's back. She was talking about Pei Hangyuan, the man who would be the future emperor. He rode toward the city gates at the head of a cavalry unit, his presence commanding and fierce. Jingwoo turned to me, a predatory grin on her face. Shui Jinghang, you're finished. This time, you're dead for sure. Jingwoo lunged toward his horse, forcing him to yank the reins tight. General Pei, I am Sui Jingwoo, the destined Saintess. He who possesses me possesses the world. Pei Hangyuan gripped his reins, though looking down at her from his mount with narrowed eyes. Where did this madwoman come from? Two soldiers immediately stepped forward, dragging the hysterical Jingwoo to the side of the road. She struggled against them, raising 3 fingers to the sky. If the general does not believe me, I shall prove it. I will clap my hands 3 times, and heaven shall strike with thunder and lightning, even though there isn't a cloud for 10,000 miles. Jingwoo looked up at the sky. After 3 sharp claps, a strange white mist began to crawl across the horizon. A flash of lightning tore through the blue, followed by the deafening roar of thunder. Within moments, the heavens opened, and a torrential rain began to pour. I had seen this trick in my previous life. Pei Hangyuan was never a superstitious man, but when she had performed this stunt in front of his manor, the sheer spectacle of calling a storm from a clear sky had shaken the entire city. Back then, I didn't know she could predict the weather, and I too had been stunned into silence. This time, the refugees watching the scene were truly terrified. They dropped to their knees in the mud. Jingwoo stood in the downpour, looking like a triumphant spirit. Do you believe me now, General? I am the destined Saintess. If you marry me, I will give you the entire Sui family fortune. But first, you must execute my selfish, petty younger sister. Pei Hangyuan leaned forward in his saddle, his eyes cold. Is the sister you speak of Shui Jinghang? I was dragged forward to face him. Jingwoo was gloating now. She grabbed my wrist and yanked at my bracelet, the one she had coveted for so long. She pulled so hard that I cried out in pain. This sister of mine is the most selfish creature alive, Jingwoo sneered. She hoards her gold and trinkets while the world burns. Look at her. She's about to cry over a piece of jewelry. Before she could finish, a riding crop whistled through the air and lashed across her hand. Pei Hangyuan dismounted in a single fluid motion, his face dark with fury. You filthy creature, he snarled. How dare you touch her? It was only after meeting Pei Hangyuan again in my second life that I realized the beggar who had harassed me years ago was actually him. We had been betrothed as children before the Pei family was framed for treason and the engagement was annulled. Jingwoo, sequestered in her temple, had never known the details of our family history. The jade pendant he had taken from me that day wasn't a random theft. It was his mother's heirloom, a token of our engagement that I had worn since I was a child. He hadn't been acting like a rogue. He had been reclaiming the only thing left of his family, and he hadn't wanted me to see his face in such a pathetic state. Jingwu clutched her bruised hand, stunned. General Pei, what is the meaning of this? You saw the sign. I am the chosen one. Do you not understand the will of heaven? Before he could speak, I raised my voice, cutting through the sound of the rain. A saintess chosen by heaven? What heresy is this? If you are truly so divine, sister, then stop the rain, right now. I looked at the shivering refugees. If this rain continues into the night, these people will have nowhere to hide. They will freeze. If you truly care for all living beings, make it stop. The people kneeling in the mud looked up. The cry began as a whisper and grew into a roar. Yes, Saintess, make it stop. Show us your power. Jingwu froze. Her face turned a deep, panicked red. She had no words. Of course she didn't. She wasn't a goddess. She was just a very accurate weather vane. Pei Hengyuan let out a dry, mocking laugh. He turned to his men. Station 2 guards here. Watch her closely. Tell her to keep clapping until the rain stops. Realizing the game was up, Jingwu tried to bolt into the crowd. She didn't get 2 meters before the refugees blocked her path. You can't leave yet, Saintess. You haven't finished your miracle. Get away from me, you fools, Jingwu shrieked, recoiling from their mud-stained clothes. This storm will last for 5 days. Move. The moment she said it, I knew she was right. But the refugees didn't care about meteorology. To them, she had summoned the rain to hurt them, and now she was refusing to take it back. Several men surged forward, grabbing her and binding her arms. They forced her to her knees in front of the city gates. If it's going to rain for 5 days, then you'll stay here and clap for 5 days. Pei Hengyuan left 2 soldiers to ensure no one killed her, then led me away. Jingwu, soaked to the bone and trembling, was forced to keep her hands moving. Superstition is a double-edged sword. If you play with fire, you eventually get burned. The rain lasted for 7 days. Jingwu knelt in the mud for 2 days, and the night before, she finally collapsed. In her reputation as a saintess was shattered. She was labeled a demoness and an evil omen. No one pitied her. Eventually, the abbot of Tianan Temple took her back in, but the damage was done. During those 7 days, I stayed at the general's estate. Pei Hengyuan had been pardoned by the court and appointed as the first-ranked general of the realm. One evening, as the city was lit by the glow of floating lanterns, he showed me a marriage decree he had obtained from the emperor. He took my hand, his eyes full of a vulnerability I had never seen before. Ahang, marry me. I will make you the most honored woman in the land. I agreed. If Jingwu was right and he was the future emperor, then there was no better place for me than by his side. On our wedding day, the estate was packed with dignitaries. Even the young emperor arrived, bringing a golden phoenix crown, a gift usually reserved for an empress. Just as we were about to perform the vows, a commotion erupted outside. We walked to the gate to find Jingwu standing there. Behind her were several heavy chests overflowing with gold and silver. The crowd gasped at the sheer wealth on display. General Pei, Jingwu cried out, I offer this dowry to support your army and bring peace to the realm. She no longer had the reputation of a saintess, so she was trying a different tactic, buying her way in as a concubine. The silver was likely the half she had kept from our family, but where had the gold come from? I whispered a few orders to a guard. Pei Hengyuan, meanwhile, looked at me. I leave this decision to my wife. Jingwu knelt before me, her voice dripping with false humility. Sister, I'm giving my wealth for the greater good. Surely you won't stand in the way of the general's cause. It was the same speech as in my past life, using the greater good to trample over me. I adjusted my heavy phoenix crown and walked toward the chests. A lovely gesture, I said, looking at the glittering gold. But tell me, sister, where did a nun get this much gold? You didn't steal it, did you? Jingwoo pressed her palms together. I spent my youth lecturing on the way. People gave freely to hear my wisdom. This is the fruit of my own labor. I knew she was lying. She had never labored a day in her life. She had simply bullied my parents into giving her money whenever she threw a tantrum. I'm a merchant, I said, my voice turning sharp. I know the smell of blood on money. You claim I'm a bloodsucker who preys on the people, but it seems you're the one who's been bleeding the Buddha dry. Before she could respond, I reached out, grabbed her by the hair, and shoved her head toward the open chest. The crowd gasped as I delivered several sharp slaps to her face. You're insane, she shrieked, blood trickling from her lip. I'm a bloodsucker, I yelled, grabbing a gold bar and holding it up for everyone to see. Then what do you call this? These gold bars were cast yesterday. They don't even have the official treasury stamps. I tossed the bar back into the chest and let go of her hair. You've spent so much time playing a Saintess that you've lost your mind. The onlookers crowded around to inspect the treasure. Someone reached in, digging past the top layer, and let out a shout of derision. It's fake. It's just plated lead. The whole chest is a lie. Where did she get 1,000 taels of gold? Jingwoo scrambled to her feet, her face a mask of filth and panic. I have spent my life in devotion. I didn't know these were someone else's. These were gifts. Suddenly, a harrowing, heart-wrenching scream echoed from the distance. You beast! You opened the temple gates at midnight and conspired with bandits. Over 12 lives were lost because of you. You used the chaos to steal the temple's golden Buddha. The crowd gasped in horror. The abbot of Tianan Temple stepped down from a carriage. The elderly monk was a gruesome sight. Half of his arm had been hacked off, and blood soaked through his white robes. At the sight of the chests of gold, the abbot's rage reached a breaking point. He dropped to his knees, coughing up a mouthful of thick, dark blood. Tears of blood leaked from his eyes, and his ears began to bleed. From this day forth, you are no longer my disciple. You are excommunicated from the Buddhist fold. Jingwoo moved to support him, but his words triggered her old arrogance. I am a destined saintess. You have no power to expel me. She suddenly clapped a hand over her mouth, her body stiffening as if frozen. She lurched forward and sprayed a fountain of deep crimson blood across her own hands and face. Staring at her palms in a daze, she whispered, What? What is happening to me? The abbot dragged himself up, standing tall and motionless, his prayer beads gripped tight. His face was a mask of stoic judgment. You never believed in the Buddha. How can you expect his protection? Jingwoo tried to argue, but another surge of blood erupted from her mouth as if a dam had burst. She clutched her face, her expression twisting into true madness. You old fool! I am the Saintess. I am a prophet. Do you even know what a prophet is? As the words left her lips, the sky suddenly fractured with lightning. A torrential downpour began. People scrambled for cover or struggled to move the heavy chests, leaving only Jingwoo and the abbot standing in the deluge. Jingwoo stood rigid in the rain, her hands hanging limp. This is impossible. It wasn't supposed to rain today. It wasn't supposed to rain. She collapsed, clawing at the abbot's feet. Master, I was wrong. Please, take me back. Take me back. The abbot simply closed his eyes. I stood nearby, reaching out a hand to catch the rain. My mood brightened instantly. It seemed my eldest sister had finally lost her weather forecasting abilities. I signaled a servant to bring an umbrella to the abbot, but he refused it. He walked toward me through the storm, his eyes deep and filled with a profound, lingering guilt. Seeker, I once aided evil. This is my retribution. We locked eyes. No words were needed. In that moment, I knew he had remembered the previous life, the night he chose to stand by and watch while Jingwoo turned me and my little sister away. My parents had spent decades praying at Tian'an Temple for their children's safety, and perhaps this life was the temple's final reckoning, a debt from the past paid in the present. The abbot stood straight in the rain, closed his eyes, and passed away right there, entering his final rest. Pei Hangyuan, indifferent to the tragedy, pulled me back toward the manor. The festivities had to continue. Chapter 3. On our wedding night, the room was bathed in the warm glow of phoenix candles. Pei Hangyuan had moved with a staggered gait, clearly having drunk his fill of celebratory wine. He sat on the edge of the bed and took my hand, interlacing our fingers and tracing the lines of my palm. Ahang! I have finally made you my wife. Cold tears fell onto the back of my hand. I gently wiped them away. Husband, why are you crying? Pei Hangyuan fell silent for a long moment before looking up at me. Ahang, will you ever forgive me? If I had married someone else and through my own negligence I had caused your death? His voice trembled, tears streaming down his face. But I've already avenged you. That person died a horrific death. I had known for a long time that he was reborn. From the very first moment he saw Jingwu and snarled, "How dare you touch her?" My suspicions had been confirmed. It was because he had fallen for her lies in the last life that he was so desperate to make amends in this one. I narrowed my eyes, pretending to be lost in thought. As his anxiety began to peak, I leaned my head against his shoulder and gave him the answer he craved. I will forgive you, but only if you lend me one thing. Relieved, he let his guard down. Anything. What do you want? I raised the ceremonial cup of wine to his lips. Pei Hangyuan, I want you to use the rest of your life to pay me back. His lips curled into a smile. Of course. He drained the cup and pulled me down onto the bed, burying his face in the crook of my neck. I lay there silently as the night wind stirred the red bed curtains. My eyes burned. Pei Hangyuan, I never wanted to be your concubine. You were the one who forced me to stay in your manor. When my sister killed my entire family and I came to you for help, you told me to be patient. You said you couldn't kill her yet. And now you say it was negligence that killed me? I used all my strength to push his heavy, drunken body off me. I stood up, smoothing my red wedding robes, and walked out onto the balcony. If my death in the previous life taught me anything, it was that even a destined empress could be tossed into a river to drown. By that same logic, a future emperor didn't necessarily have to be him. The general's manor was already a sea of shadows and steel. Pei Hangyuan's subordinates, the men who had come to celebrate his wedding, were already being bound and gagged. I had made sure that he invited everyone, their wives, their children, and the local leaders. No man fights when his family is held at knife point. As the moon reached its zenith, the emperor entered the room. He stepped back out moments later. Have you inspected the goods, Shui Jinghang? I am a merchant, I replied coldly. I only deal in authentic wares. He stood beside me, shedding his outer robe to drape it over my shoulders. He pulled me into an embrace from behind. Is the Lady General willing to become my empress? I looked at him with a frigid gaze. I find that salary insufficient. The emperor's eyes were sharp, his presence overwhelming, yet he smiled softly as he spoke. Then I am willing to rule the world alongside you, dual sovereigns presiding over the court together. And so, I became empress. Side by side with His Majesty, we reformed the court, purged the corruption, and stabilized the realm. Once the capital was secure, I brought my family back. When my parents returned, they found the Shui estate fully restored. I later learned the emperor had secretly been overseeing the renovations for months. To celebrate, my parents held a 3-day feast for the poor. Every beggar in the city flocked to our gates, but one particular beggar caught everyone's attention. She crawled to the door, screaming like a lunatic. "Father, mother, it's me. I'm Jingwoo." A servant hanging lanterns peered down. It really was the eldest sister who had been missing for so long. I heard that after the abbot's death, Jingwoo had truly lost her mind. She had wandered the streets in the rain, clapping her hands and screaming at the clouds to stop. She had tried to hide in the various temples of the capital, but word of her crimes, betraying her family and causing the abbot's death, had spread. No temple would take her. She had starved for days before remembering the charity stalls. She tried to blend in with the refugees, but they remembered the demoness who had brought the 7-day storm. They pelted her with filth and beat her until she was forced to flee. She had fallen into the same fate I suffered in my past life, a beggar rotting on the street. If she had been content to just beg, she might have survived, but she still insisted she was a saintess. Whenever she didn't get what she wanted, she cursed people, telling them they were selfish ghosts who would suffer in their next life. Her constant talk of returning to the Buddhist fold eventually attracted the wrong crowd. A group of thugs posing as monks tricked her, claiming they would take her back to a temple. Instead, they took turns with her and shaved her head bald. I stood at the gates of the Shui Manor, watching her for a long time. Out of a final shred of sisterly mercy, I had a servant give her a few steamed buns. "From this day on," I whispered, "you are on your own." As I prepared to board my carriage, it suddenly lurched. I fell back into the arms of someone wearing imperial yellow robes. Jingwoo had lunged forward, grabbing the reins with a manic intensity. "Sui Jinghang, it's you. You really did become empress. I have to kill you. I should be the empress." The emperor's grip on me tightened as he pulled me behind his back. His voice was deathly quiet. "How did you let this thing get near the carriage?" Jingwoo, half crazed, stared at the emperor. "Who are you? Where is Pei Hangyuan?" 2 shadow guards descended, dragging her away. Her legs scraped against the ground, leaving 2 trails of blood, but she seemed not to feel the pain. Her eyes locked onto mine. "Shui Jinghang, I remember now. You're dead. You all died." I raised a hand. "Wait, she remembers? Good." She was tossed onto the dirt like a piece of trash. She looked up at me and laughed. "Shui Jinghang, was the water in the river cold?" I leaned down, using the tip of my shoe to lift her chin. "I haven't even begun my revenge yet, sister. In this life, I've only been defending myself." I smiled as her eyes widened in confusion. "But if you remember the past life, then things are about to get interesting. Do you know Pei Hangyuan? He was reborn too. He recognized you the moment he saw you." Jingwoo's eyes nearly bulged out of her head. "Impossible. He loved me. I gave him a son. I only died because my health was poor." I laughed until my chest ached, and tears pricked my eyes. "Oh, sister, he killed you. 1 body, 2 lives. He did it because you killed me. Look at what you won in the end." Jingwoo stared at me, tears of blood tracing paths down her face. "You're lying." I pulled my foot back. "Don't bother thanking me. I've already killed him for good this time." Jingwoo turned as white as a sheet. "No. He had the destiny of an emperor. I did everything to please him." "How could you kill him?" I didn't bother explaining. As I turned to walk away, she screamed after me, "Don't think you've won. When I return to the temple, I will see the future again. I will destroy you." A crowd had gathered, including my parents and little sister. Jingwoo saw them, and her eyes filled with a desperate hope. "Father, mother, it's me, Jingwoo. I'm the Saintess. Save me. It hurts so much." They stood frozen. No one moved. Finally, my little sister, Jingru, walked forward. Jingwoo's face lit up. "Jingru, it's your sister!" Jingru reached out and delivered a sharp, vicious kick to Jingwoo's side. That was for what you owe me. Jingru ran back to my side. The one kick seemed to trigger Jingwoo's memory of the previous life, the moment she had kicked a 7-year-old girl down the temple steps. She shrunk back, trembling, no longer daring to call out to our parents. She just kept muttering Saintess over and over. I looked up at the sky. You want to see the future, sister? Let me show you something. Jingwoo sensed what I was doing and began to cower. No. Shui Jinghang, stop! The crowd watched as I slowly raised my hands. Look, sister, I'm going to clap 3 times, right? Jingwoo bit her lip until it bled, staring at my hands. It won't work. It won't. I brought my palms together. 1, 2. I paused. Jingwoo let out a ragged breath, a hysterical laugh bubbling up. You're just trying to scare me, aren't you? I shook my head slowly. My claps today shall bring the divine dew. I struck my palms together a 3rd time. At that exact moment, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky, followed by a roar of thunder. The crowd dropped to their knees, shouting, "Long live the Empress! Long live the Empress!" The cheers drowned out Jingwoo's psychotic screams. She stared at the sky, sobbing and wailing. It's impossible. I'm the Saintess. I'm the only one. Her last shred of sanity, her belief in her own divinity, shattered. Jingwoo, I said, my voice carrying over the rain. The lives lost at Tian'an Temple were your doing. From this day on, you are condemned to wander as a beggar. You shall beg until the day you die. The carriage pulled away. The gates of the Shui Manor slammed shut. The crowd dispersed, leaving only a broken woman wailing in the dirt. Inside the carriage, the emperor looked at me with an amused, slightly exhausted expression. Is this the result of your midnight studies of the constellations? I adjusted my sleeves and cleared my throat. Your Majesty, please. I am a destined saintess. I only just started my shift. The emperor laughed, pulling me closer. Then, my empress, perhaps you should spend the next few days catching up on the sleep you missed. The end.